Welcome to our second session of Receiving Noor Ramadan Feast. We are delighted to have two guest speakers again today who will be sharing their reflections from the Quran with us. We will start with Brother Elijah. Allow me to say a couple things as an introduction, as a bio. Elijah Reynolds is a linguist and he specializes in Arabic linguistics. He has a PhD from Indiana University, Bloomington. Incidentally, that's where I met him at Dr. Ali and Dr. Yamina's halakas in Bloomington. Same with Maha, who's presenting as well today. Brother Elijah has taught Arabic at all levels at Santa Clara, Bayan Claremont, and other institutions in California. He has been studying the Quran and Quranic interpretations deeply for over a decade, and I hear that he has a blog. He might share with us, I'm not sure. He is married and he's a father of two adorable kids. Brother Elijah, we're happy to have you today, and I will turn the microphone to you. I'm going to make you co-host. I assume you're Bayan, right? No, I can't make you co-host, but you should be able to say, share your screen. Is that the case? Let me know if you have any problems. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so I'm not able to share the screen, it says, while another participant is sharing. My sound is off, or is this everyone's sound is off? It might just be mine alone.
Yeah, there is some static sound at the background. It's good now.
Okay. Mine is better?
Yeah, now it's
okay.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
So you wanted to share the screen?
I would like to, please. Yeah. It says I'm unable to while the other participant is sharing.
Oh, okay. So then I will stop sharing.
And just to, I don't want to embarrass anyone, but I'm a PhD candidate, the longest surviving PhD candidate. Defense is this year, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So thank you, though. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وصلى الله على سيدنا المرسلين. I begin with the name of God, the compassionate, the caring, the tender-hearted, the merciful. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge except what you teach us. It is you alone who is knowing, the knowing, and the wise. Do you hear a background car horn in my audio?
Yes.
You can hear it?
Yes. I think the quality of the Assalamu alaikum, the quality of the sound is probably because you are outside.
Okay, then let me migrate. Inshallah. I'll close my video. So when I approach this, Thank you.
I think Brother Elijah lost connection.
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, all right. Alaikum salam.
Sorry for that. Thanks for your patience. So let me share my screen again, where I was. My computer has been on the fritz lately. It's been dropping and just shutting off wildly. So when I approach this this speech, this utterance, right? I approach it as, well. I'll just show you, and it'll make more sense, I suppose. The ayah here reads, "Have we not made for him 2 eyes, a tongue, and 2 lips?" And in the Arabic it says, "Alam naj'al lahu 'aynayn wa lisanan wa shafatayn." And when I read this, I understand it's talking to me, about me, because I am from mankind. The ayah, have we not made for him meaning humankind, I know it's talking about me. So it's saying to me, haven't I made for you 2 eyes, or haven't we made for you 2 eyes? And my response, my intuitive response initially is, well, who are you, and why are you telling me this? So I want to know who it is that is telling me, or making this rhetorical question. It's a provocative question. Haven't we done this for you? So, and it could have just said to me, we made eyes for you. We gave you your eyes. But it doesn't. It invites me to explore this and to think about it. And to me, this is key in my approach. I hesitate to say words like method or view, maybe, but in my approach with the Quran, with the revelation. So have we not made for him, or have we not made for you 2 eyes? I say, well, who are you? And why are you telling me this? You must have a purpose for telling me this. You've said that that I need you. You've said that I need you in a way that I cannot fulfill that need from anything else, right? That I can go into the world and have answers for my questions, but I have some questions, I have some needs that I cannot seem to find an answer for. Like, who am I? How did I get here? Where am I going? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do while I'm here? But most importantly for me, what is my purpose? Rings very loudly for me in my ear. So when it says to me, have we not made for you 2 eyes? It's telling me, look at yourself. Start with yourself. I look at myself and I think, yes, I have 2 eyes. I can see with my eyes. I have vision. And this vision, I was just born with it. I didn't make this myself. So I know that, okay, at least I didn't make it. I did not give myself this attribute of sight. And I look around the world and I see my family, my friends, my neighbors, they also have sight. And then I start to look around and I see other creatures, they have sight as well, but extraordinarily different varieties of sight. Some have sight in the dark, I can tell. Some have sight. They have almost panoptical sight. They can see from the sides. They have, almost 360-degree vision. Some have eyes on their eyes, with some insects. They have so many eyes. Some can see colors that are beyond my comprehension, while some can only see black and white. So there's this incredible variety of sight that I see in the world. And I know that I didn't give myself this sight. I'm confident in that. Then I look around and I see all this other sight, so I think they probably also did not give themselves this sight. So where is this sight coming from? Whatever gives these creatures and myself this sight, it must own sight. It must have this quality of sight, of vision. And if it can, and if it has this quality of vision in its storehouse, whatever this is, it must have the ability or the power to dole it out infinitely, unsparingly, to each and every one of us, to our own capacity, right? I may be able to see some spectrum of light I cannot see behind me. So my capacity is fixed. But then I will look at maybe some animal they can see underwater in the dark. And then their vision, their capacity is also, they have a cap to it. There's a fix to it. It's fixed. So whatever is giving us all of this sight, it must have an infinite amount of sight to give, because it never, I don't see a gap. I don't see a lack of sight in the world. It's coming fluidly. It's coming into the creation. It's coming into the world, I should say, in a way that tells me I can identify this is sight, this is vision. It's something that is, it becomes universal. It becomes ever present, right? So what are the odds, I think to myself, what are the odds that each and every one of these creatures has their own storehouse of sight? That each and every one of them has a sight dealer, right? Someone who can give them sight individually. It doesn't make sense to me. So instead, I think if I have this sight, well, everyone I know has sight, all of these creatures have sight, and we have this plethora of countless degrees of sight. This attribute must, most logically, for me, must be coming from a singular source. And that source has a great, it must have a reason to be doing it. This text, this revealed speech, claims to be the one to have given me and all of this creation sight. So for me, I start with this and think, why would you give me sight? It must have a purpose then. If it is in fact you who gives me this sight, you claim that you have. You also claim that you have the answers to my needs that I cannot fulfill in the world. You equip me with this attribute. And so this sight, for me, it begins with saying, look at yourself first. This ayah, to me, begins with saying, look at yourself first. You want to know who I am, don't you? Look at yourself first. Identify these attributes that you have for yours. Did you make them? No, it's impossible. I didn't make myself have sight. I didn't create this for myself. Then look at the creation around you. No, I see sight, but I know that this attribute, this kind of, it's a thumbprint of somebody who has sight, something that has infinite sight. Then it starts to say, have we not made for you two eyes? So then now it's telling me, looking at this attribute, looking at myself, and looking at the attribute, this attribute is in fact the connection that I have to the text, right? The connection that I have to the text is through the sight. It's telling me we are the makers of this sight. So now there is a, in Arabic we say fa'il maf'ul, like this relationship between the doer, the done to, and the doing that connects them. So this attribute is the connection between me and this ostensible creator, the alleged creator, or giver, I should say, the giver of the sight. And this attribute, it doesn't come from the world. It must come from outside of this world because it's ubiquitous, right? None of these creatures, nor myself, can just spring cite this phenomenal, extraordinary attribute. It's not ordinary at all. This extraordinary attribute cannot just simply spring into the world on its own or by some cause of the creation. Because otherwise, then all of us would have to have this power, and I am certain I don't have that power to create sight. And then the next ayah, it says something even more, profound to me. And a tongue and two lips. And I know this is telling me about my ability to speak, and I can speak. I start with myself and I say, I can speak. Yes, I have been given speech, this attribute. And I didn't do this on my own volition. I have no idea how to do it. I just know that I do it. And I look around and I think, nothing in the creation, everything in the creation also is speaking. My family, my children, my friends, the birds are speaking to each other. The dogs, they're speaking to each other. Even plants, they're speaking to each other. For miles, you'll see, entire networks of roots underneath the ground. We know they're speaking with each other in their language, with their own tongues of disposition. So all of this speech is even more, perhaps more miraculous to me, more extraordinary, because because it's not simply something I need to survive. Like I would think maybe I'm using my sight to be able to live in this world. Okay, it's a gift, and I can survive in the world. But then speech is something entirely different. It reflects an intelligence. It reflects a different kind of purpose to me, in my understanding. So then that means I can look at this speech in myself and say, whoever gave this to me, he must also have this quality of speech. So again, this attribute is my direct line, my connection to whoever or whatever gave me this speech, and this text claims to be the source of that speech. And it's really quite extraordinary. Like when we look at studies of children, infants, they start to develop linguistic awareness in ways that are really inexplicable. A child at 7 months can hear a consonant, let's say a consonant, from any kind of language, Chinese, French, Italian, English, Turkish, whatever. Then the moment, and what would they do is they put a pacifier in the child's mouth. And that pacifier, the baby sucking on it, it has like some sensors on it to detect when the child starts to pay attention to something, right? The child's not going to say, yes, I recognize this sound. They're sucking on the pacifier. And the moment they hear a sound that is meaningful to them, that is, they know that there is some meaning in it because they've heard it from their own family, they're sucking, and then they stop. And they look around, and then they start sucking again. And then they hear that sound from their language again, and then they stop. It's like they're looking for meaning. They're looking for something that has significance, that is not like the other speech. And then there's another interesting study when if you hear like cafeteria noise, cafeteria chatter, the chatter from the children or the chat, sorry, the chatter that the child listens to, it has layers. It's not, they're not in a cafeteria, right? You can't perform a study like that very well. They're fed an audio feed of cafeteria chatter, and that's layered in different types of sounds, but then also different languages. And then when the child, when, say if the child is, say, Turkish, um, the moment Turkish enters into the feed, into the sound, it's, you can't understand it, but you hear the sounds. The child immediately starts to perk up and listen. Like, oh, all of this noise, there's meaning in there somewhere. Wait, I can almost hear it, right? It's like they're in pursuit of meaning from the moment they come out of the womb. Um, and I can tell you other stories, other studies like this. But the point that I'm trying to understand here from the text and try to explain and elucidate on is that I'm looking for meaning. I'm looking for significance, and these tools or these ayahs that are given to me, they're signs. They are telling me, they're giving me the way to even inquire about myself, my creator, and my purpose, right? So I'm asking these primordial questions that, and this is quite extraordinary to me. Um, I probably should have started with this, but when I start to think about what do I need from revelation, I need from revelation what I cannot get in the world, and the revelation, I have a need for answers for questions that I have, that every human who has ever walked this earth has. Who am I? How did I get here? Who put me here? Um, what do I do here? What's my purpose? The fact that in scientific fields, when you see this much ubiquity, this much pattern, it's on purpose, right? It's by design. I don't want to maybe get into this discussion about intelligent design. What I mean is it's not an accident. It cannot just emerge accidentally, because we see it everywhere. Every person with aql, with a mind, they have these questions. My child, she was 4 years old when she asked this question to me, Baba, who am I? I said, well, this is an existential crisis. You're a little early. I'm a little early for an existential. You're asking me this question. Um, so that means that everybody, if this is in everybody innately, um, it's not conditioned, it's coming from within. That means it's put there. And whoever put that question there is the same one who put the vision in me and put the speech in me. And then comes to tell me, we put this in you, didn't we? We gave you this sight, didn't we? We gave you this speech, didn't we? So then that starts to turn my wheels, and I say, yes, the one who gave this to me, he didn't have to. But he gives it to me freely. He gives me speech freely because he has speech and he has sight. And this tells me so much more than I bargained for, so much about who he is, how he is, and then how I am brought into this creation, and to really contemplate these questions. For me, when I think about these questions, they give me a little bit of anxiety just to think about them. It comes to my mind: who am I? Where am I going? What do I do? Maybe not panic. Maybe in a worst case scenario, I feel panic. But the moment I hear these phrases, there's something there. Somebody did this on purpose. Somebody put me in this state intentionally, and he's telling me now, I'm right here, right? And that's very comforting to me, even in my least anxious state. just if I'm thinking about this on an intellectual level, right? Just detached from the panic that I may normally have in trying to figure out who I am, and to kind of relate it to the larger scope, it says in the preceding ayahs, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Certainly, we created man in travail, or in a difficulty. Again, this is that we saying, we did this. You're not alone. You know, you might think you're alone, but we've given you something so that you can answer these burning questions that every single one of you have. It's not an accident that all of you have this question. It's not an accident that these attributes, wherever you turn, you can find them in the creation, in multitudes, in a variety of shapes and dispositions and quantity. And so for me, when I approach this speech, this message, I will fixate on these types of ayahs that tell me something about me and something about my creator. But in a way, even in the Arabic, it's a very strange way to broach the subject, to ask this rhetorical question in the way that it does. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope it's of some benefit. Jazakallah khairan for allowing me to share what I've been reflecting on for the past couple months. These two ayahs. I'm a very slow reader, alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Jazakumullah khair, Elijah. Are there any comments, questions? We have some time for discussion. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Elijah. It's a comment. It reminded me of the kind of ayat that we reflected on earlier in the earlier weeks. For instance, when we are told in the Quran, أَلَمْ تَرَى أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَتُصْبِحُ الْأَرْضُ مُخْضَرَّةً, and it's saying, don't you see that it is God that is sending down water? And we talked about how mostly, people will read it as, you see, God sends water. But the ayah is saying, don't you see that it is God? And I look at myself and I don't see God sending the water. I see water falling. It's raining, I say. Here also, it's saying, it's a rhetorical question. So it's saying, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْنِ. Usually, it's going to be read as, God gave me eyes. So there is no room for reflection, as if I took it for granted. I already know, but I never actually went through the journey of reflecting. Is it the case? And so it's really, it amazes me each time how we are invited. Elijah used the word provoked, like it's provocative, but it's a gentle invitation, actually. It's saying, like, go and think. Like, so here there is, it's not saying God, it's saying we, and we say, God, just a second, who is God? Who is we? Who are you, as you said in the beginning? And it's saying him. So who is him? Okay, I understand it's talking about me, about humankind. Who is me? I take so many things for granted. That's why we're not in touch with the guidance packed in these messages. And it is made for, it's not, and we understand it that God gave me, but you said gave for, جعل, ألم نجعل له, جعل لي, to make for. So there are two things going on here. The making, the activity of
creating, of making. It is being, there is some rububiyyah, some activity, some creativity going on. And the second is li, lahu, laka, for you. There is purpose, as you said, there is purpose, therefore there is meaning, and specifically for me. Who am I that I am given this, and for what purpose? Why am I given this? Unless I understand the purpose, it won't make sense. Yet at the same time, as you said, we have that consciousness and we do seek meaning. And lo and behold, we find out that parallel to that seeking of meaning, we are given all these tools, so to speak, like the sight and the speech and the hearing in other parts of the Quran. We are equipped, perfectly equipped to seek that meaning and make sense of it. Subhanallah. Thank you so much for sharing. Each time I hear something from the Quran, it amazes me again and again. Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first time I've been hearing you, so we've not met, or maybe we did. So it's very nice to.
You probably only met like when you visited in Indiana. That time Elijah was still there.
MashaAllah.
I lurk on the YouTube channel.
We need you to stay longer than lurking, so we get that feedback. I loved bringing it to newborns, like subhanallah, yeah, this aspect and the research that you have like cited is very powerful, because it's like it tells you it's innate. It's not something that kids have learned from school, or like, you know, it depends on your upbringing or where have you been raised. Like this is an infant, and this wiring of an infant, no one can argue that, you know, that it's not given to them. Like it's not something that, you know, this mother has taught, or this mother has been, you know, talking to her baby longer, all those. But this is non-arguable, innate gift given to every human being, until we dull it down, until we, like, you know, they ask questions and we dull the questions, we change their existential question into a simple, how does this work? And the more we keep, you know, reversing their questions, then they realize, oh, there's no need to ask these questions, you know. So we almost train them without knowing to lose that cognition, that like that need to know the meaning that they're born with. And I've seen that happen again and again. You know, one of the easiest ones that I've seen were my kids when they were preschoolers, and marveling at the changing colors of the leaves. And they're asking the teacher, and she said, oh, that's the way they live their lives. And the kids said, oh, wow, that's exciting. Like, you know, that's the way they live their lives. They become colorful. But no one takes them to what is the meaning, which usually that's the question, what is the meaning of that? So I love that example that you brought forth. Thank you very much.
You know, on the point that you said, and when it happened, something happened last night, and I knew I had to share this with this wonderful group, because they will really, it'll resonate well with you. On the point about how we dull it down for them, we kind of take away the purpose that they're seeking. I said to my daughter, she's 7 now, and my wife, of course, is telling me, why aren't you doing Ramadan stuff with her? I said, I take her and we go look at the moon and we talk about the stars and these things. You know, talk about the sunrise and the sunset. She's like, no, why don't you read a prophet story for her? I said, okay. So I said, Maryam, my daughter, Maryam, go get come read to me this story about the Prophet Muhammad. She said, I don't want to read that story. So she said, read me a real prophet story. This story is boring. I said, why is it boring? She said, it's like all about facts and boring stuff that adults like. She said, why don't you tell me one of the stories of like Ibrahim or Musa or something?
How old is she, mashallah? How old is
she? She embarrasses me. She's 7. So she knew immediately that these stories that we hear, they're meaningful. don't bore. She's like, don't bore me with. She even said, "Oh, I'm Muhammad. I was born in 1984." She said that. She started to mock the story about the year he was born and the date, the figures and the numbers and historical data. She's bored with it already, but she wants to hear about, well, why is Jonah? Why is he in the whale's mouth? What happened? What does this mean? She's asking me, what does this mean? So all children are like this, I think, until, like you said, we dull it down for them.
And obviously we dull it down because we have not tried to figure out the answers ourselves. So we don't want to feel embarrassed. So may she be your teacher, inshallah. Our teacher, all of our teachers, all our kids.
I feel compelled to, I hope I can interject one last time and then I'll stop talking. I don't want to abuse this attribute of speech that's reflected on me by overdoing it. But there is an ayah here that really irks me. And I have to address it every time I see a translation of it, because every translation of it, I find it very troubling to me. The Arabic, the English says, does he suppose that no one will ever have power over him? When I hear this, and everyone I've asked about this, you can tell me if I'm wrong. This sounds like not a bully, but almost like a threat, right? That I have power and I can do something to you that you don't like. أَيَحْسَبُ أَنْ لَنْ يَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدٌ in the Arabic. But it says لَنْ يَقْدِرَ عَلَيْهِ, right? That he will not have قدر عليك. قدر عليه. That is, he will not have, if you take it out of this context for the moment, we hear frequently in the Quran, Allah is على كل شيء قدير. Allah is على كل شيء قدير. That he is over everything, he is qadir, that he has power or something. And I asked my wife, when you hear this ayah, that Allah is ala kulli shay'in qadir, over everything he's qadir, how do you feel? She said safe. She didn't, it was really profound. I said, that's exactly how I feel. When I hear ala kulli shay'in qadir, Allah is over everything, he is qadir, I don't feel bullied at all. I feel like everything's working appropriately, everything's functioning just as it's supposed to be. Alhamdulillah, I have my qadr, you have your qadr. We're good. I'm good. There's no bully in the sky to tell me I'm going to come down and rain hellfire on you, or I'm stronger than you. I know you're stronger than me. You created all of this. But the ayah here, it's all, for me, invariably, it's translated in a very aggressive way that I just don't see that rhymes with the rest of the Quran, where it says Allah is Qadir over everything. It makes me feel safe. This does not. It makes me feel somebody's there for you, right? Somebody's there watching out for you, not watching you like the big brother, But anyway, this is just I felt compelled to expand on that. Jazakallah khair.
I'm a big talker, so you never met me. So here you are, you're gonna hear another comment about that. So like recently I came to understand like a better meaning for the word Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And I'm blocking on it as I'm speaking. فاطر السماوات, the word فاطر السماوات, Allah فاطر السماوات والأرض. So it's always translated as creator, but it made so much meaning when Prophet Ibrahim was like trying to figure out who is his Rabb, and he's looking into the, heavens and earth, searching for questions. And like first he was looking at size, like this, this structure is bigger than this structure is more bright. But then all of a sudden it dawned upon him like his need, and he started asking, if my Rabb, my sustainer, my provider is not going to guide me, I'm lost. And then it came to him, and then he realized that his sustainer, and the way it always was translated, was the creator of all these planets that he's seen. But then the Arabic word of fatir means like it is a purposeful creation, like creation, there's a plan for it. So when you say Qadir, for me also what comes to me is that there is a purpose in being in control of everything. So that purposeful, that underpinning purposeful creation, that purposeful qudra is what makes it which could ease someone's fears, versus on the other hand, like, you know, if read wrongly, make someone fearful. But there is a purpose that, although we might not understand it, it's a purpose. So I feel like that reminded me of your feeling about the word qadir, like fatir. I felt the same way about it. So jazakallah kulli khair. Jazakallah kulli khair.
There is also the context. The context here is there is a part of us that is being addressed, and that part of us is the arrogant, rebellious, the part of us that doesn't want to surrender to its reality of being created, being made right here and now. And so this is a reminder of, like, it's like, who do you think you are? Who are you kidding? So more than bullying, it's like a reminder, but a little bit tough reminder, because if we, later it's going to say, وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ, and we show him and we guide him towards the two paths. But because what is at stake is so important, if there is an imminent danger, it's very dangerous that I choose the wrong path, the path of arrogance, the path of not accepting my reality. Then being a little tough, I think, is also a sign of compassion and wisdom and meaning, because I need it, because there is a part of us that is really obstinate and that can really be self-destructive, because what is at stake is not destroying only the meaning and purpose and therefore the peace and joy of this life, but what is at stake is our eternal future. So I think it's appropriate here in this particular context. I mean, even if it's not only the translation, even in Arabic, it's like أيحسب أن لم يره أحد ألم أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد. Each one of them is like quite like, who do you think you are? It's putting us back into our true place, and we need it, because we're going into a self-destructive, very dangerous path when we go through the path of arrogance. And arrogance is really delusion.
And transgression.
Transgression starts with transgression, reality, transgression against ourselves. But this transgression, it's like something rotting. It disturbs everyone around. It disturbs the qadr of everyone around. Although, yes, it is true that God, in his wisdom and mercy, is going to transform everything into goodness if we, even though we may transgress against others. But it is a path that leads to much transgression and darkness and yeah. So we need to be stopped, and this is saying, stop it right now before it's too late.
We were having this discussion in another halaqah recently about ayah that mentions salihat, righteous deeds. It's always translated as like righteous deeds or good deeds, and it got me thinking of why it's a very strange way to say it. You could have just said, you know, you didn't have to say salihat. It could have been a'mal or tayyiba or something, right? But it says salihat. It's a specific word that occurs frequently. And I looked it up and found that salihat always occurs with the expression alladina amanu, or with the word mu'min or iman.
Amal
So it tells me,
not only salih, not only salihat, but wa'amalu. Yeah, amal salih is always
Yeah.
True.
So when the salihat is being mentioned, it's always in this context of iman. So that means for me, I have to try to understand what is salihat through the lens of iman, through the aspect of iman. That is, when I do a good deed and I take those attributes of goodness, righteousness for myself and say, I donated charity today. Or in the context of this surah, I fed an orphan, right? Or fakku raqaba, to free a slave, to manumit a slave. You know, I know that if I'm emancipating somebody, or I feel good about myself, like, oh, I must have done it. But in reality, that the moment I do that, it is no longer salihat. The moment I try to claim these attributes for myself, now I'm stealing from the storehouse of the one who created these righteous acts. This for me is how I understand the salihat. Subhanallah, it's really phenomenal. Like you said, the way the Quran invites you to reflect in ways that it's a very peculiar speech act, the Quran. It doesn't speak normal, right? Like وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. I swear by a father and what he begets, or by a parent or a begetter and what he begets, or what is begotten. It doesn't say by a father and his child. It's inviting me to say, what's the relationship here? This is going to be your approach to understanding revelation. That is, what is the relationship between a begetter and begetting? Now I'm no longer looking at objects, I'm looking at relationships. It's very difficult to see relationships. You can see objects in the world. Oh, he swears by the star, by the moon. But now he's swearing by a begetter and what is begotten, right? That is, it's the verbal expression, وَمَا وَلَدَ, right? So now it's talking about, look at the relationship between these two things. There you will see, in the same way that the moon is an indicator that, my daughter was telling me this last night. The moon, the light on the moon indicates that there is a sun. You don't need to see the sun. You know that there's a sun because you look at the moon and you see the light off the moon. I asked her, where does the light from the moon come from? She said, well, of course it comes from the sun. The moon doesn't have a light source. In the same way, when you look at the relationship between the walid and wama walada, you're looking at the relationship there. And when you look at these relationships, you start to see the attributes of them. You start to see the qualities of them, and you no longer impose upon those elements of the creation. You no longer impose upon them attributes that don't belong to them. And I know when I first, became a Muslim, or I don't like that phrase, when I first started reading the Quran and meeting lots of people at the mosques and things, I just assume, well, they're all better than me. They're all great. They're all fantastic people. They've all memorized every verse, and they've all made Hajj. Like, I impose these ideals onto them that they're perfect, and then I get frustrated and say, these people are terrible people. They're horrible, when in reality, they're just not perfect. Why do I impose that standard on them? That's not an attribute in this world of perfection. So for me, this is how I come to approach when I find things that are strange in the Quran, like every ayah. A lot of ayahs, they sound strange. وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. My ear perks up and says, why are you telling me this way? I really need to understand the relationship here, that you're telling me this in such a strange way. And I try to follow the again, I don't want to say method, but the approach to understand more about what's really being said. So.
Or you can say like Imam Nursi rahimahullah, he says, تفكروا في الآيات بالآيات. So we reflect on the ayat, on the passage of the Quran by means of the ayat, not we just don't impose our already taken for granted assumptions and stick them on the ayah and say, this is what God is telling me or telling us. Full stop, carry on. You live your life as you want. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that this is I use the term centering, as Isra said. Actually, with the amal, it always comes the amal and the good works and the deeds, because they're the practice and all that. So it's kind of centering it. Otherwise, it becomes an act of ego, like as the brother said, to patting us on our own shoulders. Okay, but so yes, this was beautiful, and I'm thinking what a lovely, wonderful, wise little truth seeker we have as a medium of the divine word. Sometimes we have to listen to that, comes from the mouth of babes. But I want to go back to the original grassroots thing about the stories, the little Mariam, I think her name is, Mariam said, because this is something I'm trying to cultivate among my Muslim friends, that do please tell them the stories from the Quran, like it's stories of the Sura field, the story of Abraha. You know, they are so appealing. They have the wisdom of the ages in them. And if we tell those stories to the children and we embed it in their psyche, and because I remember it happened to me, and when the more I grew up and the more I look back on those stories, they opened up and became very revelatory, the layers just opened up. And so that's how the wise people, the walis, also tell their teaching, the methods of teaching is like that, through just such tales. So yes, the brothers, or rather Mariam, Allah made her say the right thing. Those are the stories we should actually nurture. Even there's an adult friend of mine who suddenly kind of turned to her faith, and she's always telling me to tell her stories. So, and she listens to the stories, and then she goes back. Coronavirus has done this to us, sitting at home and turning to the right place. And she then turns and reads it after she hears it from me. And she's an adult. She's 50 years old. So yes, Mariam said the right thing. Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Elijah, for sharing. And thank you, Yamina, for adding more, and everyone else also joining in. Before we move to the next person, I also wanted to share, like others, I really appreciated this way of reading the Quran, applying what Yamina usually talks about in receiving Nur, in paying attention to the signs, and really slow down. And I couldn't believe that you spoke and you only covered, you only talked about 2 lines, you almost a line and a half. So that slow down reflection on the signs was really beautiful, mashallah. And the passing, that verse 4, when you said لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, you said this is this idea that God is saying it's okay for you to feel anxious. We are there for you. We know that it's difficult. So I never understood this verse. I was like, what does that mean that we're made in difficulty? What does that mean? And then finally that this meaning made sense, that one of the meanings could be that, yes, we know what you're going through. We know the anxiousness. We know the search. We know the difficulty. We made you that way. We know it. We're for you. We are here for. I'm here for you. That resonated with me.
If I can add one thing.
Okay, one thing before we move on. Yes.
Sorry. the laqad is really has a very heavy part here. That it's not خلقنا الإنسان في كبد. It's لقد خلقنا الإنسان. This is like, we are the ones, and we are certain of it. We certainly put you in this state. That is, the laqad is a very powerful. It's two what we call modals in linguistics to say to confirm the veracity, to emphasize the veracity or the truthfulness, as well as confirming the certainty of the speaker's perspective. We know for sure that we created you this way. Like we know what we're doing. We put you here on purpose. It's not just this isn't just information that we're sharing with you. It's to be transformative.
So it's not only validation you're saying. It's more than just validation. It's telling us that anxiety or whatever it is also there for a purpose. It's not just take it easy. Yeah.
Thank you for adding that. That's very helpful. So we made you in difficulty for a reason. Not against you, we're with you, and also for a reason. That's beautiful. Thank you. Jazakumullah khair. What a feast indeed. This is a feast. So with that, we will now move on to our second speaker.
Can I add something, please?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I want just to add something like in continuation of what you guys have been saying. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created eyes for us, but also he has created the eyes to other creatures like Brother Elijah referred to. But so the question is what is special in giving to human, why it has also been given to others. So if we look at the ayah, it says أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْنِ, and then there is وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْنِ. So there is that that says that he has given to humans more than the sight. He has given them also the lisan, the ability to talk. And so and I'm just thinking like this is referring to the special, giving the meaningful purpose, as Sister Yamina has referred to when she said that there is something going on there too, which is that ja'alna, it's made like it's made for him. It's something that's made for human beings, and this thing that has been given to him, it's also has been intensified with other faculties to enable him to see the signs and contemplate on the signs. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that, Zahra. Thank you. And so with that, inshallah, now we will turn to our second speaker for today. Sister Maha is going to talk, and let me. Do you need to share something, Maha? You are muted.
I don't have written material to share.
Okay, so then I can put back the PowerPoint here. What happened? Sorry, I'm having some technical. Oh, okay. So we now turn to Sister Maha. And just a very brief introduction for her as well. Maha Nureddin is an activist and community organizer who studied cultural anthropology and comparative literature and creative writing. She designs workshops and seminars on soul questions, critical conversations. She's trained as a peer counselor and she does spiritual counseling. Her recent passion has been teaching at prisons. She's currently teaching at prisons. And she's a spouse and a mother of 3 very independent young men who keep her on her toes. She loves travel, opera, good discussions, cafes, and all things therapeutic. So without further delay, we turn to Sister Maha to share her reflections. The title of her reflections is One Step Forward, 3 Senses and Tenses Abound, a preliminary reading of Quran's imperative on walking. Bismillah. Thank you, Maha.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Let me know if you can hear.
Barakat. Yes, your voice is
Okay.
as usual beautiful.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back with you. I love this company. And today I come being provoked. I'm going to use Elijah's word. I'm provoked by some ayahs in the Quran, and I haven't prepared a list for you to share, but I could make it available. I have about 14 ayahs, which were not, I'm hoping to share with you my preliminary reflections on one verb, basically, from those 14 ayahs. They're all having to do with the verb siru, which is a command verb, fi'al amr, of walk or travel or journey. I do not depend on English translation very much, but in the English translations that I have checked, it's one verb, siru, that gets translated into different words. Sometimes it's walk, sometimes it's journey, sometimes it's travel. So if you are interested in the list of ayahs, I'm going to read some of them. So in Surah Al-An'am, ayah 11, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قل سيروا في الأرض ثم انظروا كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين. And I'm going to read this. It's probably the only ayah I'm going to read the interpretation, the translation. Say, go all over the earth and behold what happened in the end to those who gave the lie to truth. The rest of the list, the ayahs on my list are around the same theme. Surah An-Naml, the ants, ayah number 69. قل سيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف كان عاقبة المجرمين. Now, it's the same thing. Say, go walk all over the earth or journey through the land and look and see what the consequences of transgressors have been. Surah Al-Ankabut, ayah 20. قل سيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف بدأ الخلق. Say, walk through the earth or journey through the land and look at how creation has started. Surah Ar-Rum, ayah 42. قل سيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبل. Similar theme and meaning. Say, go walk on earth or journey through the land and look at what happened to the people who came before you, who came before. Surah Yusuf, ayah 109. أفلم يسيروا في الأرض فينظروا كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبلهم ولدار الآخرة خير. Have they not walked through the earth or journeyed through the land and seen how the consequences of those who came before them? Have they not seen those consequences? And the hereafter is best. Surah An-Nahl, ayah 46. I'm sorry, Surah An-Nahl, ayah 36. فسيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين. Surah Al-Hajj, ayah 46. أفلم يسيروا في الأرض فتكون لهم قلوب يعقلون بها. At ayah 46 in Surah Al-Hajj, have they not journeyed through the land and had hearts through which they could reason with? Surah Al-Rum, ayah number 9. أولم يسيروا في الأرض فينظروا كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبلهم كانوا أشد منهم قوة. Have they not journeyed through the land and seen how the consequences of those who came before them, those who were more powerful than them? Surah Fatir, ayah 44. أولم يسيروا في الأرض فينظروا كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبلهم وكانوا أشد منهم قوة. It's a similar meaning. Surah Ghafir, ayah 21. أولم يسيروا في الأرض فينظروا كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبلهم كانوا هم أشد منهم قوة. سورة غافر آية 82. أفلم يسيروا في الأرض فينظروا كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبلهم كانوا أكثر منهم. سورة محمد آية number 10. أفلم يسيروا في الأرض فينظروا كيف كان عاقبة الذين من قبلهم دمر الله عليهم. So if you want a quick list, Surah Al-An'am, ayah number 11, Surah Al-Naml, ayah number 69, Surah Al-Ankabut, ayah number 20, Surah Al-Rum, ayah number 42, Surah Yusuf, ayah number 109, Surah Al-Nahl, ayah number 46, Surah Al-Hajj, ayah 46, Al-Hajj 46, Surah Al-Rum, ayah number 9, Surah Fatir, ayah 44, Surah Ghafir, ayah 21, Surah Ghafir again, ayah 82, Surah Muhammad, ayah number 10, Surah Ali Imran, ayah number 137, and Surah Saba, ayah number 18. So this is just a quick list of where I want to stop and share with you some reflections and questions about that commanding verb siru, walk, journey through the land, travel. So I find the mention of the command verb siru in the Quran to be really intriguing. And as in the case of Revelation, I've understood those ayahs differently throughout the years as I read Quran for Khatm, for Khatm al-Quran. You're aware that there is more than one way to read Quran. I'm referring to the reading that's more surface than contemplation, the one I sometimes refer to as Khatm, where a person feels pressured to finish reading the Quran by a certain time. So in that style of rather speedy reading, I would be left with echoes of siru, my topic of the day. So in my Khatm readings, sometimes I'm left with these echoes of siru, walk, travel, journey. Admittedly, I have not chosen to research the topic in depth before because I was pleased with just encountering the command verb walk, journey, travel through the land. I was just happy to have it echo in my mind, and I didn't previously research it in depth. My first impression was, what? That's a command? How awesome. I'm totally on board. And that was plenty for me. It spoke to me. And for years, I fantasized about doing just that with the company of fellow believers, possibly female believers who would take to earth, walk, explore, and heal. And some of you here today, we've spoken about this personally and sometimes collectively, how we could take trips together and do a lot of walking and a lot of exploring. You see, when there is a text, there is a reader. And some postmodern theories suggest that the text and the seer or the reader of the text influence each other in a way that makes the text inseparable from the particularities of the reader. So the reader projects themselves, the readers project themselves onto the text. Okay, in my case, who's the reader? The reader is me. Yours truly here is physically female, short, non-athletic, and dresses in long, flowy clothes. Socioeconomically, I'm cosmo-urban metrocultural. I have a steep street sense, people reading, city excavating, cafe hopping, restaurant sampling, concert going, and a bit of globe trotting. But I probably have zero rural common sense, zero wilderness skills, zero great outdoors know-how, and very little outdoor camping experience. Intellectually, I'm influenced by all the advantages and the disadvantages of liberal college education. And despite studying cultural anthropology, my forte remains in chairs and books and seminars. Lifestyle, I'm a walker and a travel addict. And I'm a mom and a spouse of an anthropologist, by the way. When I'm not traveling, I think of travel a lot, as in a whole lot. And because I do not get to travel full time, naturally, I'm a member of numerous travel groups all over the world. I could easily watch a new travel vlog from an independent traveler every single day for several hours if I want to. So this means I have plenty access to other travel addicts that are more agile than me, more active than me, and who churn up videos of their daily experiences and reflections. What's the relevance of all this to our topic? Remember, the reader influences the text. Again, for a number of years, I was happy that there were verbs in the Quran that urged folks to just walk the earth, to travel the land, to journey through the globe. Why wouldn't I? Such a Quranic injunction spoke directly to my personal passions and left me feeling empowered not only to travel solo, but to think of Allah as on my side while traveling solo, while traveling alone as a solo female traveler. I thought to myself, how come many Muslim societies are so stuck in conservatism, especially for women? There are women who barely get out of their household or outside of their extended family environments, let alone travel. I've seen Muslim women who haven't ever seen men from outside the relatives or blood circle. And I can easily imagine that the majority of women in traditional Muslim societies are discouraged from travel unless for necessity or pilgrimage and only with family. And I'm not ignoring the financial aspect. I'm here speaking about women who and families who have the finances to buy gold or property or jewelry or other things, but would see that it's inappropriate to spend money on travel. Then how do we reconcile that cultural practice of extreme absence of travel, especially for women, with the ayahs, with the verses in the Quran that command us to walk the earth and journey through the lands? Some might say that the ayahs are meant for disbelievers who had doubts about God. Maybe some ayahs are about that, but it cannot be exclusive to disbelievers because there are ayahs to believers as well. And the spectrum of belief and disbelief is quite relevant to all of us. Some might presume that the ayahs are for men, but there is no evidence of that in the Quran. The ayahs I read, the list of the 14 ayahs I read did not address men, were not gendered. So now to the pressing question of what type of travel does the Quran refer to in the above ayahs? And here is where my intrigue lies. When I looked into the ayahs a bit more carefully, I found that there is a lot going on. There is walking, traveling, and journeying. There is looking, a lot of looking while traveling. The Quranic ayahs command us to travel, to walk, and look or see. I'm using looking and seeing interchangeably here. The ayahs say travel and look, or travel and see. But what's curious is that when we hear of the word look, the command look or see, we expect to see something physical. No? If I say look, you are and you're gonna expect I'm pointing to something physical for you to look at. What do you see when you walk or travel? We've all walked. We've all done some kind of travel. What do we see? For me, I'll tell you what I see during my daily walk. I have a daily walk, and this is what I see. I see trees, shrubs, grass, some flowers, some people, vehicles, houses, some animals, neighbors' pets, wild rabbits, deers, possums. I see birds. I see the sky and gorgeous cloud formations. I see sunbeams and shadows. I see rocks, stones, and pebbles. That's what I see. And depending on which city I'm visiting, the landscape will differ. In New Delhi, India, there's a lot to see. For me, I see what my eyes can reach. I see the crowds, excuse me, the shops, the rickshaws, the food stalls, the monkeys, the cows, the buildings, the amazing women in colorful saris, the smiling kids, and a lot more. What I don't see is how the present people relate to their ancestors, or how the contemporary scene compares to its past. I only see what's before my eyes. And I thought it was plenty enough. When you travel to a place like New Delhi, or many places, Cairo is overwhelming as well. What you see is plenty. But this is not what the Quran is talking about. Likewise, in Uzbekistan, for example, I saw the most splendid mosques ever built on this planet. I saw those mosques empty of worshippers. I saw the emptiness and wished it was the reverse. I saw the present, not the past. Same thing in Iceland. I saw the sparse island. I saw nature and sea. I did not see the Vikings. Just like I never see pharaohs in Egypt. Not even when I look at the Great Pyramids. And guess what? I don't see Ottomans in Istanbul or Muslim scholars in southern Spain either. I see the material and the physical, and maybe the culture. And I also see today's people. Occasionally, I'll come across something that strikes me like it must have come from a time bygone. Occasionally. The culture of mosques in Morocco made me feel that this must have come from centuries back. And everyday courteous language in Moroccan streets also made me wonder how it must have been passed on from previous generations. The way the Parisian French use cafes and places of production of thought, revolutions, and imagination also reeked of earlier times. That's it. That's it. I do not see Napoleon in the streets of Paris. I do not see the Moors in Morocco. I mean, there is a limit of what you see when you travel and walk, at least for me, right? I'm sharing with you my readings here. The seeing I knew in walking and traveling had visual limits. Despite my fascination of people, I have a fascination with people, and I engage in extensive people watching. I have no idea what the grandparents of those people did or did not do, thought or did not think. Then why does the Quran tell us to walk, travel the land, and see what happened to previous people? In the verses I've read, the 14 verses I read for you, the Quran did not say walk and travel and journey and look at the trees, or look at the monuments, or look at old architecture. It said, look at what happened to the people before. Look at people who disbelieved, or people who lied, or people who transgressed, or people who committed crime. And there was an ayah of walk around and travel, and don't you have hearts through which you could reason? Hearts through which you could reason. So the expectation is different. The expectations on those Quranic ayahs are different from our regular walking and seeing and looking with the visual limitations. How do you see the past? Is my question. How do you see the unseen? How do we see the unseen? Look at people and civilizations that are bygone. Okay, how do I see that? How do you relate lies or disbelief or denial or other problematic behaviors with the scenes we observe while walking and traveling? And if what's meant is a study of history, then why not sit down on our bottoms and read and learn about history? What do historians do? They spend hours and hours, years and decades in checking out archives and reading. What's the connection between walking, traveling, and seeing not just history, but attitudes of dead people and departed civilizations? There seems to be a connection between traveling and the physical act of traveling and walking, and a connection with understanding what happened in the past or what's going on if we exhibit certain problematic behavior. That's what those ayahs in the Quran are asking us to do. It's not just leisure travel, not just tourism, not just physical exercise or taking flights from A to B. There's a lot more going on. And there seems to be a type of exposition, a kind of learning. In those ayahs, you get the sense that the travel and the walking and the journeying that it describes is speaking about a certain type of exposition and learning, a barrage of insights, not just sights, but insights, and a width of world comprehension that is expected to happen. So how come this is all expected to happen? How come this is all expected to happen via the familiar act of putting one foot ahead of another, or via embarking on a trip? Is movement of the body a key in unfolding realities that go beyond physical vision? If this type of walking is a wake-up call, a method of reckoning, a consciousness lift, or simply a removal of veils against limited understanding, why aren't we all engaged in this beneficial practice? At minimum, why aren't we talking about what it means or how it's done? And if walking or traveling can help us see beyond the physical scenery, what else can other practices do for our souls? And why do we even imagine that the physical is real when we're taught to go beyond it, just to begin to be aware of the truth? So these are my reflections and these are my questions. I'm left with an understanding that seeing is not the seeing we do every day. Walking and traveling are not the conventional walking and traveling we might be familiar with. And I'm left with a sense that the present must be a catalog for the past and might be casting light onto the future. In fact, past, present, and future seem to be all connected to the simple act of allowing oneself physical moving through the earth, a physical movement through the earth. So how do we allow ourselves to see beyond seeing to see into attitudes and history and complex events. That's still to be explored. I don't know yet. I don't know how we can transform our simple acts of walking and traveling into a journey through the past by focusing on the present and into understanding the future. What do you guys think? That's where I engage you in the discussion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Maha, for sharing this reflection with us. And the floor is open for comments.
You know, mashallah, Maha, like you took me through all of the places that you have described with you. Jazakallah khair, what a beautiful presentation. But your question reminded me of I'm trying to remember Surah Yasin, maybe in the beginning, where like, ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم, like that's what's ahead of you and what's behind. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking like, everything you see, we're asked to stop and pause and think, where did this situation come from, and what I'm doing now, where is that leading to? Like, so that like ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم, it's like it's a big part. We keep reading also Yasin all the time, and I keep stumbling on this and thinking, oh, just things that I've done in the past and things that are coming later on. But what you're telling us with Sira is like, you need to intentionally stop and see what brought you here and where are you going, and what brought anyone. So for example, when you see things that you don't like, sometimes you just like say, okay, I don't, this is happening, let's say out there in the real world, something is happening, an attitude, between people, and then you just stop there. But you never, like, what God wants to say is like, why is this happening, and your relationship with what's happening, would it change it? How would you want it to happen again? Like, how would that take you? So there's a lot of real deep reflection that is needed there. So I don't have answers, but jazakallah khair for getting us to.
Is anyone puzzled at how it's presented as though it's an immediate connection? Walk, journey, and look at those who disbelieved, or those who lied, or those who transgressed. How are you walking in the present and looking at the people of centuries ago?
Assalamu alaikum, Maha.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I like how you put it now, and thank you for the presentation. I know that we had lots of discussions with you about the topic. Doesn't it remind you of other passages like ألم ترى أن الله أنزل من السماء ماء? Like it's the same expectation. It's saying, don't see how, like, God, how can I see God making water fall down? And here it's saying
no,
and then fandoro. Most of the time it's going to observe, see.
When at Surah Al-Sajda, when you were discussing about the waterfall, and Isra was surprised why, when I said I don't see the connection, she said, why can't you see the rain? No, for example, in Egypt, it's very fertile, there's tons of food, but there's no rain. So I do not see the food coming from, I mean, unless I study it, I don't see the connection between food and rain, because we don't see rain. It rarely rains.
But still you water on the earth.
But so my question is, these connections, are they immediate, commonsensical, or is this a kind of education and a kind of awareness that requires more complex conditions to happen? Just like walking in the present time and looking around as though you're looking at ancient times.
Exactly. Definitely there needs to be, if it were common sense, then as you said, it wouldn't make sense. And if it were common sense, as Elijah said before, and as it is acknowledged in the Islamic tradition, then I would not need divine guidance to teach me that, because I would readily, it would be common to just do it. So there is something, these passages are teaching me something new. They are bringing my attention to something that's in me, but it needs to be brought out. It means I need to put my attention there. It's like a dark corner, and if you have a light, and the moment you put the light there, it reveals what's in that dark corner, because it's not dark anymore. But that attention, that consciousness, we need to be uplifted, and these ayat are uplifting us. And that's why when you ask about, do we need the physical walk? Yes, we need. It's like, do we need the physical eating, seeing, in order to realize that I have basar, I had sight? Definitely. So we need the physical walk, the bodily walk. However, does it mean that it has to be necessarily to far away places? That's not specified. It could be, I don't have to go. Although the way we are creatures of habit, when we are in new places, we are more likely, or it is easier to let go of our routines. Routines means our assumptions, pre-understandings, and it's easier to rise up and listen, because actually we don't want to project our understanding on these passages. We want to listen to them. And as you pointed out, all these ayat, they all have a purpose. So it's not just walk and look and observe. No, it's always, there is a purpose at the end. So we're looking for a purpose. It's that purpose that is going to guide our attention and lift up our awareness, because we already we don't know, but we are told what we expect somehow. And I think, so when you said, is it the study of history? Definitely, it's clearly not the study of history. It's not, it does not talk about a specific history, specific people. It says people before you in the past. Like, is it 20 years ago or 200 years ago, 2000 years ago? Nothing is specific. But there is one thing in common, because most of them are about people of the past, and some, like you said in Surah Al-Ankabut, it's about سيروا فانظروا كيف بدأ الخلق, how he has started the creation, which is a little bit different. But when you look at the past in general, there is one thing in common: they are not here.
Right.
They are not here. And that is something we are going to see with insight. We are going to feel. If we remind ourselves, like, where are those people, as you said? Where are they? They are not here. They are not here is like, especially when we are not living in that constant ihsan, is that constant present, in the presence, in the present, in the presence of God. It's like someone pours a bucket of cold water suddenly on you. What's going on? They are not here. How come people who lived and built all these things, they are not here? It's something that we cannot comprehend with reason. And so that's why you also, one of the verses that uses siru, walk, travel, and see, it's talking about people who have hearts with which they don't reason. لا يعقلون لهم قلوب لا يعقلون بها. Because how can we cannot fathom, we cannot even get close to realizing what's going on. People were here. They left, the building are still here, but they are not here. It's like وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. They build things, the buildings are here, they are not here.
So what do you make of that they are not here? How does it make you feel?
That's what we want to focus on. That's why we need to be there, and that's why we need hearts with. The heart needs to feel it. Those, once we have the emotions, then we can reason over those emotions. But we need, that's the data we need.
Assalamu alaikum.
To appreciate.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Maha, this was so incredibly deep and just beautiful. Thank you. You touched on so many points and so many layered points, like walking in the present to see the past. And this thing about speed reading through the Quran, which is always sometimes a little stressful during the month of Ramadan, because I never speed read through the Quran because it itself is so intense. But as you said, you were warping and speed reading, and this kept popping out: walk, walk, travel, see. Now, when I'm reading, I keep seeing, why are you joining partners with Allah? That keeps popping out with me. But thank you for mentioning that too. This warp speed reading of the Quran during this month also brings out other things. But this whole thing about your presentation about walk and journey, and why do you even have to walk and journey? I think of belief and action. Like you can't say you believe, or you just can't say you have belief without using your limbs. So it's belief and action is what jumped out at me. And just for example, when I went on Hajj and I looked at the Kaaba, I just started to cry. And my husband was like, why are you crying? And I said, I don't feel anything. He was like, what? I was like, I don't feel anything. And it just frightened me. And I just began to cry. Because everyone said, when you go on Hajj, you look at the Kaaba and you just feel so like this intense feeling. And I didn't feel anything. It just looked like the pictures that I saw in the brochures and everywhere before I went there. It just looked like the Kaaba. But when I went on a level above and I witnessed the tawaf around the Kaaba and I saw that motion, I was awestruck and overwhelmed. So this belief is not by itself, it requires action. Thus the walking, the journeying, and that's what it says to me, belief in action. Now, walk in the present to see the past. Okay, are we talking time travel? I don't know. But time itself is an invented thing, and it's an invented thing. We didn't invent it. And who is not to say that the present is not the past and the past is not the present? You do have to get out there, as you beseeched us, especially us women. You need to get out there. There's more to see besides sitting, as you said, on your bottom. I just thank you for that. And it's belief in action. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. Sister Naima?
Hi, assalamu alaikum. I really, really love this topic, Sister Maha. May Allah reward you. And just to add on what the sister mentioned, I remember hearing that belief that encompass all your limbs is what really settles in your heart. And the invitation to walk, it just really like mind-blowing. It's so simple, right? And you asked a question on whether this topic, whether it's common sense. And I feel like it may not be common sense, but common sense doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be complex. I think it's quite the opposite. It's very simple. And I really love this.
Good point.
And I feel like the invitation to walk the earth, to travel, to explore, to see, to question, to hear, that I think it is innate. It does come with our fitra, but it is a means for us to transform ourselves. It does require intentionality and effort, and the active pursuit to reflect. And we see this all throughout the Quran, where Allah is inviting us to reflect. And so now it has me ponder, how often do I travel, or do we travel, to both fulfill like our desire to explore, but with the intention to be introspective and to be reminded of Allah. And if we do that, then it can then become an act of worship. And if we put Allah in the front of all that we do, as we reflect, it becomes ibadah. So that I just love this, and I just wanted to thank you for that.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
I wanted to share, I mean, no, it's going to be anecdotal, but I wanted to share that recently I was in a travel. We were in Macedonia, and as you may know, Muslims are a minority there, and Ottomans used to have control over the region in the past, but not anymore. So we were visiting these beautiful mosques and walking around also other places. And so we met this lady. She was Muslim, and when she told her that I'm from Turkey, she said, you know, Ottomans, why did you leave us? You know, you left us. She had kind of a longing, like, you left us here, we're a minority. And Yamina was next to me, and she said, you know, we empathize with her, but she also said, but look, they are gone too. Like, they couldn't help themselves. You know, Ottomans are gone. So that was an interesting thing, that, you know, that it was a present conversation, but it took me to the past, right? I mean, the people who have made those buildings, whether they're, you know, wherever we go, there are buildings here as well, wherever we live, and people are long gone, and their buildings are standing, and that is one bridge, as you suggested, to the past. That only comes a bit more real when you walk around and see actually places. The other anecdotal thing I wanted to share is, when I was younger, I think one of my first international trips, I was in Morocco and this could be a bit disgusting, but, you know, it was either Roman ruins, and the guide said it was a kind of a bathtub and stone out in the open, and he said, and this was the vomitorium. And I was like, what? He said, you know, yeah, you know, Romans, they really, enjoyed good food, but then you can't eat after a certain point, so then you vomit so you can eat again. And then someone was next to me. She said, now you know why they you know, that civilization came down. So every civilization, of course, has ups and then goes down. But to think, again, this is very anecdotal. I apologize for being so anecdotal, but I think these are some of the kind of bits that we may pick up as we're traveling, if we are willing to
Engage.
reflect a bit more. Yeah.
But it does. My intrigue and question is that it doesn't come readily. There is an effort, and there is a lot more. And I don't know all the ingredients that are required to make us walk and see the past and connect with the past so clearly into an insight, not just presumptions, and not just through, you know, touristic info. It's the Quran is asking us to engage into a deep insight that I find absolutely fascinating, because it doesn't seem to be that readily available or accessible on a surface level at all. And I'm not sure, you know, what. So even with, we all have anecdotes, and they are all very useful, but what more do we need, and what do we make of them? You know, the analytical, there's so much going on. And can you imagine that this is just with walking and traveling? Analysis and insight and looking through the heart, and an awareness of people bygone, of the past. There's so much going on at that one simple level. Then what else is going on? that is even more critical, you know.
That's the real, let's say, not the question, but the real thing, the real meat. What you first mentioned is the preparation. We walk, we go there, we have our intentions set. We are in a listening mode. We are open to receive. We are open to be inspired. It means we are not coming with, as you said, with our touristic information or our pre-understanding, pre-judgment, pre-assumptions. So we're trying to be in that mode of receiving, and then we will receive. We will be inspired. It will be revealed unto us. That part is something that you will witness. But we have to do our part. Our part is getting ready for it, preparing, and it is given. And that's why I'm speaking now on behalf of Maha. Maha keeps, each time when we meet, you all know, let's have a retreat, a walking retreat, a little bit extended. But at the end, she starts saying, even if it's a weekend, but a walking retreat. We did have a week walking retreat in New York with only few of us, and it was amazing. What we experienced there, we could not have expected it or predicted it.
It's true.
All kinds of, we met the people, all kinds of miracles happened, but it was not something we could predict because we don't know what will come, what will be sent our way. It's a receiving, like when you are sitting and contemplating, and lo and behold, you start experiencing so many things become clear, or new awarenesses, you become aware of something new. This is something similar, except because it's in motion, it's much richer. I feel, even when I want to focus on an area or something, if I'm sitting, I can't really focus. I have to go for a walk.
Oh.
And it's not like I'm thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it at all. I just put the question there that I have, or the awe that I have, or the, as you're saying, like our state of being is asking a question. I am puzzled, my puzzling out there. And then, because when you are walking, you're also as if, how do you say, letting go and relaxing and looking around, and not being in the mode of I am going to do it, I'm going to understand it, I am.
Maybe oxygenating. The movement itself allows for oxygen, and oxygen is exclusively God's.
That's a helping, yeah.
Yeah, and it's we cannot do the oxygen on our own. We can imagine we're doing some thinking, but we cannot produce oxygen, for example, just as a small thing.
So that's one helping factor. But there is baraka. They say, "Fil haraka baraka," right?
Right.
There is blessing in motion. It's a saying.
Question, and the questions, some questions still remain for me. One is, as Maha, you asked, reference to unbelievers, that, see what happened to those who deny. So a number of verses have that specific reference.
Right.
And then the other thing is the Ankabut one that Yamina cited. It's saying, go and see how creation started.
Right.
How
I read this.
Yeah,
but I was like, does this mean paleontology? Like, what is?
Right.
So
the expectations are sophisticated. So we either want to see ourselves in light of that sophistication, even this is why at the beginning I said, if we're looking at the reader, me, Maha, I'm short, I'm not athletic, I don't know anything, I know very, very little about biology or physics or even wilderness, and very little skills of navigating, living, or no rural common sense at all. But yet I find that there are higher expectations of me, at least at the comprehension level, or at least at the insight and the sight level. So what do I do? I mean, if I take it personally, then I ask myself, what do I do about that? How, what is it that I need to do to prepare myself and to elevate my my understanding into, you know, deeper insights about بداية الخلق, the beginning of creation, of lies, of civilizations bygone, of disbelief, of transgression, of people I don't know anything about, or people who have died hundreds or thousands of years, and so on. It's an interesting challenge, actually. It could be also enlightening and empowering, and adding value that we don't ascribe to our capacities and abilities. Do you see what I'm saying?
You know, Maha, what you're saying reminds me of, you know, old poets, like, you know, ancient poetry. And I'm not good at memorizing poetry, but I remember a lot of poetry growing up that was shared with us in school that we had to memorize, was like poets reflecting exactly on this, poets reflecting on, like, you know, on how many people have walked on this earth that I'm walking on. Slow down in your walk, you know, you're walking on graves of people, you know, that have, you know, underneath your foot are graves of people who lived like you're living. So walk on the earth with respect to those that have came and left before. There's a lot of poetry, at least I was exposed to Arabic poetry about this. So the culture, like, you know, when you just said, like, when you go to Morocco and you think the language tells you about like, you know, the habits of people in Morocco before, how was it like, and the mosques tell you about how, you know, how was the communal worship practiced in these places before. And also the poetry tells us about, like, how do people think about before. Today, because we're very factual, it's like, you know, this is what's happening, I need to take care of it. There is no space to, like, why should I care about what happened, you know, under, like, you know, the place that I'm living in now? Why should I care about who, you know, who lived here, who was buried here, what happened to them? And that gives a richness. And the Quran, because, I mean, it's our creator, and he knows that, you know, these are the things that he created us with, the need for meaning. And if we keep moving, if we keep without reflecting, then there is still meaning that will be missing from us. So God is guiding us for a meaning that we don't want to just pass through earth and be passed on later on. We need some meaning. And if we don't realize, you know, if we don't contemplate, and I love also, because I like hands-on, like, activities. I like that God is not saying just sit down where you are and, like, contemplate on these deep, like, you know, concepts. No, God is saying go outside and walk, like, you know, like, this is practical. This is something that you'll have to get out, walk. As you're walking, find that meaning, like, you know. So you know, God is, you know, could have just said think about, but he didn't say think about. It's like walk, go outside, go out and walk, like, do the walking. And as you're walking, think of, like, you know, all of those, like, the footsteps that you're doing, you know, the places that you're going, who was here before, what happened to them, you are going here, what will happen later, and so forth. So subhanallah, it is a state of awareness that we are capable of, but we don't get to. Like, usually when I'm outdoor walking, I'm mesmerized by the beauty of the trees and the, you know, and the sunlight, and but rarely, if ever, would you like slow down and think, oh, what about people who were here before me? What about people who come later on? What is the meaning of me coming and going, of them coming and going? What? And that is a very deeper level. Jazakallah khair.
And the human being is complex. We have so many systems, and all of our systems are like one. You can get the spiritual out of the physical, and you can get the physical out of the spiritual. All of our systems are working together, and they're all complex individual systems, and they're all working together. They're all working as one, just like it's all created by the one. So we need them all. And I'm still stuck on how can you travel in the present and visit the past? Well, haven't we? When we listen to stories about the Sahaba, aren't we there with them? Don't we ache when they ache? I mean, we're physically not there, but we're listening, and we have traveled there. And the same thing with we're getting the spiritual, we're getting the physical from just listening and having our spirit go there. And the same thing with the physical. And as Sister Yamina mentioned, walking, but not even expecting to solve anything, with something coming to you. So it's just all of our systems working as one, created by the one.
Thank you everyone for sharing. I see Faraz posting some other perspective. I'm going to quickly read it, simply because it's very different from what we have been talking about.
Isra, its time is close. Somebody has a comment. I've already written it. People will read it, I think. So no need to read it, I think.
Yeah, I'm not doing it because it's for us. I'm just doing it because it's a different perspective, and we have a recording, so I want that to go in. Yeah, so it says, I see traveling on earth as a description of my life as I am living it, like a journey on this earth. To think of it as a special walking or trip is new to me. And then to say that they were punished, people before, is to teach me, if I think they went to nothing, it's as if I'm saying they were punished by given death, which is not the case. I see it as punishment when I'm not secure with the source of existence, and see those pass as within now. Okay, so, previous civilizations and people passing is not necessarily a punishment, depending on how we see it. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So yes, we are almost out of time, but we can take last couple comments.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Maha, mashallah, I just want to share how very grateful I am for your presentation. Also, I didn't get to comment for Brother Elijah, mashallah. I also first want to say I'm super grateful to see how there is this fruitful experience happening with following Receiving Noor. We had yesterday a journey of exploring how to become conscious while cooking and while eating. And then with Brother Elijah through seeing. And then now, mashallah, through walking. And there's this beautiful, Sister Yamina saying, shining of light in these new areas where I'm listening and seeing areas lighting up, and it's just so beautiful, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
And I guess it's beautiful. I don't know if you guys collaborated or if these two just came together in this beautiful way, mashallah. But like Brother Elijah was saying, the child with the pacifier, the baby with the pacifier, all of a sudden hears something that's meaningful, and there's this pause. And as mashallah you guys are sharing, I felt that this pausing of the pacifier, or this alarm that goes off inside, comes whenever we are first asking the question, like Brother Elijah beautifully started with, mashallah, who am I? How did I get to this weird place? It's really strange. Who sent me here? What are we doing? Like, people are passing away. There's corpses going into the ground. That's really strange. Like, where did he just go? He was just with us. But where is he going? Where are we going? Who sent us? And there's this amazing alarm that happens only when the question is asked first. Because I would have never read those ayat that he posted of like, didn't we give you eyes? Like, yeah, I know God. I know you created them. I know you made them. But it's so much deeper than that. It's like, I know if you're asking the question, who are you? Why did you send me here? Who are you? Who am I? Then all of a sudden it's like that one that you're looking for. I'm telling you, it's me that gives you eyes. It's me that gives you vision. I'm the one that you see through. And now with this traveling, it's like walk, move, like travel, or like Faraz, mashallah, said, it's so beautiful. It's like journey, even in your own journey. Like some people don't get the luxury of like my family in Egypt. Like the most you'll see is Alexandria, like great. So travel, see what you have to see. But like, I love the ayah that Sister Yamina mentioned, that you mentioned in Ankabut 29:20, كيف بدأ الخلق? Like, فانظر, how did this whole thing start? And kaifa, like really, it's so wonderful. It's such a great question. And without that, we're like, oh, what did those people do? Civilization, history. It has, for me, it's like, it has nothing to do with that. It's like, there's this flowing happening, like recycling, literally everything that's coming and going and flowing, and it's happening nonstop. And maybe when we start flowing also, and in this movement, this static sort of life in the house, some sort of movement, like Sister Yamina says, sparks this alarm. It's like, how did this start? And then all of a sudden you'll see the ayah being revealed, because Allah continues in that beautiful ayah in 29:20, all of a sudden, like through traveling and moving, I'm supposed to be seeing something about akhirah, and something about bada, like something about a starter, and something about eternal. And in Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir, right? Brother Elijah just mentioned that as well. So now it's like, wow, okay, I'm seeing a connection through my seeing, through this walking. If I have the question first, then there's this revelation happening through me, that there's a starter, there's a flow happening. The flow is returning right now. It's like, it's not, I don't have to wonder about what the pharaohs did, although my brother Lairhamo was like really interested in that. I don't have to necessarily see that, because I see there was a people and now there's a something else. And then Allah says, you know, in the same way, everything is returning into this eternal, there's this flow, and perhaps I can connect to that more as I flow or move. Jazakumullah khair. Maha, I really appreciated your style, and Brother Elijah, we're very pleased to have had you also share. Jazakumullah khair.
So inshallah, next walking retreat.
Yes, let's do another one.
I think that was really beautiful.
Inshallah, as soon as all of this is out, our first thing, definitely, inshallah, we'll be walking, inshallah.
Okay, so that was a very beautiful way of summing up and connecting, Sarah. Thank you. So inshallah, we are going to stop here, unless there's somebody who wants to make one more comment. Okay, so otherwise then inshallah we'll continue having our Ramadan feast next Sunday with Tasniya and Zahra, inshallah. And on Wednesday we will again meet for reading from Imam Nursi's text on beautiful names of God. Inshallah, join us on Wednesday at 3 p.m. again, same link. And in the meantime, let's keep each other in prayers, and maybe we continue to feasting in the Quran. Jazakumullah khair for today's speakers, and Yamina and everyone else who joined and commented and was with us today. Jazakumullah.
Thank you, Isra, for hosting and organizing and the whole and Yamina and the whole Receiving Noor team. Jazakum Allah khair.
Thank you. Thank you, Maha. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, everyone. May Allah be with everyone. فالله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. إن شاء الله في أمان الله.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone.
Alaikum assalam wa
الله.
rahmatullah. Alia and Yamina, can you